Hey, Dad.
Hey, Matt.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing very well. I'm in the middle of a production, as you know, and so today's our final rehearsal, and that's good. And tomorrow we go into the theater for tech.
Cool.
Yeah, it's exciting.
I had an
Um,
exciting day too.
oh, okay. What was
Louise,
that?
Louise fell and hurt
No,
her head and her arm.
no. Is she okay?
She's okay. Yeah.
Okay,
Thank
good. Um, Well, hello to our listening audience. Welcome to Discussions with Dad, Faith, Blood, and the In Between. As always, my dad and I are here to uh, share our opinion, and our opinion doesn't necessarily mean anything, actually. So take it
We
for
think it
what it's
does, though,
worth.
don't we?
As always, we review our core promises. We promise that even when we disagree, we will practice patience and love over certainty. We will tell the truth with care, and we will listen to understand, not to convince, convert, or prove wrong. It occurred to me that sometimes we tell the truth to one another with care, but when we're talking about someone that isn't able to be here to have a rebuttal, we're not always talking with care. But that was just an observation I made. Uh, I don't know. I don't know why it popped into my head, but I thought, we do have strong opinions sometimes.
Very strong opinions.
And those opinions that maybe sometimes they're not delivered with care. So that's all I was
But the thing
um,
is, and that's true, you should always take care to do that. But also, they're just our opinions.
right. And I think that's going to be a large theme in today's conversation. You good?
I am.
Okay. I think that's going to be a large theme in today's conversation because we're looking at things that we were told that didn't come to fruition, and for whatever reason, maybe. And so before we get into the juicy ones, is there something that you remember? Is there something that you remember from your childhood that, I don't know, that you thought that people said that was so ridiculously obviously a myth and was never going to be a thing? It's a lot of dead airtime, Dad.
Well, no, I'm thinking. I'm thinking. I mean, in general. I mean, if we're talking about some of the topics we're going to talk about, environment and stuff like that. But I mean, I can remember silly things, just silly things that adults told me about, like picking up a frog or a toad and you get a wart and stuff like that. I mean, that's to one extreme, but
Well,
that
that's what I'm talking
I
about.
can remember. I can
Hold Do
remember
me a
that.
favor. Pull your mic closer to you, Dad, because sometimes you get,
Okay,
yeah,
there you
you
go.
get a little closer.
Better.
Yeah, thank you. So
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
talk
silly
about
things like, things like that. I can remember stuff like that that
what's the most outlandish one.
from an adult, that was probably it, from an adult. I mean, the old Italians, grandma and them, they believed that, like, if you were talking about a baby and you touched your face while you were pregnant, that baby would have the mark on them and all kinds of stuff like that. I mean, there was all kinds of wise myths like that. Yeah. Yeah, of
That's
course.
that's
I wish
interesting.
I could remember all those ones.
When I was getting ready to prep for this episode, I was like, I don't know that I grew up believing anything, and if someone told me something, I probably just automatically didn't believe them. Uh,
That's your nature.
it was my nature. It's funny, Dad. I was watching. You know how you had all of our childhood VHS tapes converted into digital, and
Right.
so from there, of course, I always take it to the 10th degree of how can I preserve these memories. And so, in addition to the fact that you have them preserved in a cloud somewhere for us, and they're on a USB jump drive,
Right.
I also upload everything to a cloud-based platform like, in my case, Vimeo. I like their platform. So anyway, I was uploading all the videos to Vimeo, and I showed Anthony a clip of Mad Cats,
Oh, no.
the the but no, but what was so funny is I was watching it, and this is going towards toward the conversation that we had last week or last episode. I was watching myself almost. I was 2 days away from turning 18, and I was looking at how I was standing and how I was talking and everything about it, and I didn't recognize myself. I remember how uncomfortable in my skin I was there, that
Right.
how I presented to people, I guess they thought I had confidence, I don't know, but I definitely didn't have any confidence. So watch and I now because I know what confident feels like now. So
Right.
watching that back, it was so jarring to see a version of me that that I remember living but didn't remember how I felt looking out. Does that make sense?
Yeah, of course.
And this is
But you were very confident for your age group.
well, yeah,
Maybe
the funny part is that that's what, Mrs. Bruce is sharing, in the award ceremony, but anyway, the whole point of this is that, uh, even then in high school when, whatever myths that happen in high school that you hear, from, uh I'm trying to think of like the horror themed things or like look in the mirror and any of those kind of tropes that you hear in high
right.
school. None of those ever stuck with me either. I think I was I'm a cynic.
I
And
was
so
gonna say, yeah, it's pretty cynical. Yeah.
yeah. Uh yeah. So okay, so along those lines, then what is one of the things that you remember being told by a politician and or a leader or someone in power that you were told that was formative that didn't come to light?
Oh, yeah, I know there's lots of them. Me and you talk about them all the time. Um, I was in my freshman year in college at CSU, and there was a course called Environmental Conservation, and, I was studying to be, geology major, and I had taken that course before I had made that transition, but that's what I wanted to do, and, that professor, um, at CSU said that by the year 2000, major portions of California would be underwater. Of course, this was 1975, so that was 25 years. That is a long time. When you're eight, I was 17 actually. I started college when I was 17, and I didn't turn 18 until October. So I'd already been in that class for a while. And I remember him saying, you know, that by the year 2000, that major portions of California will be underwater because the Arctic ice is melting, the Antarctic ice is melting, water is rising, the temperature, all that good stuff. And that's why my generation has so much trouble with anything that anyone's saying about global warming or global catastrophe or on and on and on, because guess what? It didn't happen. As a matter of fact, if you remember right, when we came out to see the play that you wrote and produced and directed, um, we were down at Joe's, our favorite place in Redondo Beach, and I said, Matt, look at the lifeguard stands. And we left there in '94, I think it was, if I remember right. And obviously we weren't there in 2000. Well, I went back in 2000. But my point was that water's in the exact same place as it was when we left. Depending on if the tide's in or if the tide's out, whatever's happening,
Yeah, but okay, so
normal
wait.
activity.
Okay. So okay,
So that was one of them. That was just
one
one.
of them. But okay, so a couple of things. First of all, so you don't believe in global warming.
Well, I believe that there's probably uh, global warming taking place. Now, as far as the facts about it, you'd have to look it up.
Okay, okay. So I just
But I
wanted to
don't want.
clarify that more for the listening audience, that it's not that you're denying that the environment is warming or that some of these things that we know that are man-made or that are at least contributing to the fact that our climate is changing
No, I don't
because
believe
of
that.
you don't believe that.
No, I don't believe that. I
What
believe our climate's changing because our climate changes constantly. It's been changing for many, many years. The last ice age, we're still coming out of somewhat out of that, and obviously, um, there was an ice age that we were coming out of, no doubt about that. So what made that warming take place when there was no people to speak of on Earth? It wasn't because of human intervention that made that ice age stop and the Earth actually start warming and the glaciers
Well, I think there was
receding.
a catalyst for all of the like the crust. Every period in time, there was
There
a
might have been
catalyst.
a
There was a
catalyst,
catalyst
but it
for the
wasn't
Jurassic
human.
period. There,
It wasn't human oriented. That's what I'm saying. And it's not human. It's not human caused now.
so you don't
That's
think that humans cause? You don't think that our pollution contributes to any kind of destruction to our environment?
I think it now pollution can hurt our environment if you're going to pollute the rivers, and definitely they don't need to be polluting the ocean. But do I think it's causing catastrophic climate change? No, I don't.
Okay, so that's I think that's where I think this is where the conversation always. I think this is why the conversation isn't had in the right way because I think two ideas can exist. I think that what we do as humans, and especially in factories, and especially things that we were doing in the 70s and 80s that we now aren't doing, that we see a result. I think those things contributed to environmental decline and destruction. I also think that we are not, it's not as gloom and doom as, even I remember Al Gore making it in 2000 out to be something. I,
2004, 2006, something like that. You have to look it
No, no,
up.
no. In 2000, Al Gore, that was what one of his campaign, that's what he was running on. I remember. And, I guess my question is, as a Christian, aren't you called to be a shepherd of this earth? And if so,
Not a
uh,
shepherd, a
okay, what are you?
steward,
A
a
steward.
steward, and there's a
Okay.
difference. Yeah,
Okay.
a steward. Yes.
Start with the difference because I think of
Well,
someone shepherding or stewarding the land, taking care of it,
a
tending it,
shepherd, a shepherd takes care
looks
of
after a flock.
livestock and live people, right?
Right.
A steward would be conscientious of the land, which I agree with. I don't think we should blatantly try to destroy anything on the earth. One thing you have to understand: most of the major climate catastrophes that happened since the ice age, even um, it happened because of natural occurring events. Mount Vesuvius, even when Mount St. Helena went off, and I don't know the exact facts. Again, you can look it
Well,
up.
that's what I think. You're getting. I think you're going to get lost in the weeds and having a conversation where you lead with that, Dad. Because the thing is, neither one of us are experts on this, and even the experts that are experts and have studied this for decades don't agree. So
Right.
the question that I'm driving, or the question that I'm trying to kind of uncover is I guess why are the people that believe that we are called to be stewards of this earth the first to say, okay, well, we don't care if there's any protections on this national park, or okay, well, we don't need to limit how we drill and where we drill and why we drill, or we don't want to run this pipeline under land that isn't ours. I guess that's where I think the people that are, whether they're global warming deniers or environmentalists that, or people that don't believe in environmental protections, I guess you're also usually more conservative, so it doesn't make sense to me. And that's where I'm confused at how we could be called to do good and be good and take care of the things that we've been given by God, and the first thing we do is lift restriction on things that we're protecting.
Well, that's because you're jumping right to the conclusion that what happens when you drill is a bad thing. And again, you're not an expert at it, and neither am I. And there's people who'll say it isn't bad to do that.
Okay,
I'm
but it's
talking
not
about
pretty to look at.
I'm
Let's at least.
That's right. It might not be pretty to look at, but I'm talking about willfully dumping raw sewage into a stream, an industrial plant dumping raw sewage into a byway or waterway,
Which happens.
which has happened, and that's wrong. I'm against that. Of course, I am. process it
So
properly.
how do you, I guess it's kind of the same question with gun legislation. How do you how the government that we are supposed to be for the people, by the people, of the people, how do our governing bodies tell a corporation no, just because you contribute billions of dollars to our economy and hire 1,000 employees across the United States and take, no, you don't get to dump your contaminated whatever anywhere you want. Our government doesn't seem to be very good at standing up to corporations in that regard. In fact, most of them, because of lobbyists, are getting money from these people that are supposed to be protecting and making sure that those things don't happen. So then you want to get rid of the environmental agencies that would normally oversee and make sure those things are happening. So where are the checks and balances? Who's now guarding what's good and what's bad, and who gets to dump where and who doesn't? That's, I guess,
Well, I mean, that's
the
why we
root
have
of
an
what I'm.
EPA, and we still have an EPA, and the reason we have an EPA is just for that reason. And I think that's probably good. There's got to be laws set forth by Congress, okay, and then we have to follow those laws. It's not just one person or organization or one agency saying you have to do this because Al Gore said so, or because Joe Blow, super smart professor, said so. We're by the people, for the people. Congress makes laws, votes laws, and people have to follow laws, and that's how it should be done. And if it's a law, then it has to be upheld. Any kind of law, no matter what it
Okay,
is,
okay, but
it should be upheld.
okay, but right now,
No matter how stupid I think the law is, doesn't matter. If it's a law voted in by the people, for the people, it has to be upheld.
so are you following all of the national parks and things that are being kind of stripped of their protection?
I haven't been
And
following it at all. No,
okay,
I'm
well,
sorry, I haven't.
no, I mean there are several national parks right now that I guess have been, I don't know, declassified. I don't know what the right word is when they're no longer considered a national park, or like maybe there's a monument that's considered still um like worth preserving in that area, but now corporations and companies can go in and drill the land, and I mean, you pave paradise and you put up a parking lot. Who's gonna stop? Who's gonna stop all of our national public spaces from being eroded into corporate?
You said it. We the people. If it's passionate enough, and we are governed by people who vote, and we vote in elected officials that vote for us or with us or against us, then that's who should do it.
Yeah,
That
but
that
someone in your own family shared a call to action to write a congressperson regarding one of these national parks, and it wasn't even on your radar. So I mean, I just don't know how effective it is without. Look, we can't all have our eyes on every single thing that could happen in a country, especially in a country as big as the United States. Especially, I mean, that's why you have local government, right? That's what you have: your local government, you have your communities, you have your state governments, you have your federal government. All of these things should be working together, but right now, none of these things are working together. So it concerns me when I hear people that are anti common sense in any regard, especially when it comes to environmental protections. Uh, Gun safety is another one, but we're talking about environmental protection. So whether or not the environment is warming, whether or not global warming is a real thing, whether or not any of that is, I think we can all agree that things are not as good as they used to be in our environment, right? Like when you were a kid, wasn't the air cleaner? I mean, no.
no, LA's
No,
got
I'm not
cleaner
talking
air.
about LA. And again, that goes back to the restrictions that Los Angeles County and California in general put, the
Right,
DMV put on
right,
drivers. So we know that can be effective, but I'm
and that
speaking
was good.
generally with broad
Well,
strokes. I'm
that
not
was a
talking
good
about
thing.
one pocketed I think in general our air quality is not as breathable as it was in 1975, Dad. I think that's
I don't
common
know.
knowledge.
I can't speak to that. I don't know if that's true or not true. All I know is what you're asking is how do we control it? And the answer I have, definitely how I don't want it controlled, is some administrative person sitting in government making the decision without we the people. You said it yourself. We the people by the people. If you put a czar in power and he makes all these decisions, I don't want the government making that decision unless it's gone through Congress and been voted on by congressional representatives that I put in place and you put in place. That's how our representative government works. Now, not everything makes it to a general ballot where me and you get to vote on it, but we did vote for congressmen to be in place. And if that thing becomes a law, then it needs to be enforced by the proper people within the government because it's a law.
Until something like, a law like Roe versus Wade goes before the Supreme Court and we didn't get to elect those people, and they overturn a law that the people that we elected 40 or 50 years earlier agreed upon. So it's not always as black and white as you say, and sometimes there are things that
We
we're
did get to
doing.
elect those people. We elected the people that appointed those people.
We
That's the process.
we
That's the
elected.
process, and it's been that forever.
Well, no, I mean the last both presidential appointees of Supreme Court justices. First of all, Obama was blocked for 2 years by the same people that used the same thing against him when they wanted to put three in for Trump. So we don't play fair in Congress. We already know that.
That's how the Congress worked. No laws were broken, by the
I
way.
know. So I'm asking you to think outside of the governmental agencies and how, as people, if going back to the idea of being a good Christian and a good shepherd of the earth, then what is your answer to satisfy? Because ultimately, something bothers you about the fact that you've been fed a lie, right? What is it that bothers you? That they lied to you, that they continue to lie to you? I
That
mean,
they continue to lie. That they continue
well,
to lie, and that's why my generation doesn't believe all the stuff that they tell us.
but we kind of already had this whole we did a whole episode about specifically your generation and when are you going to believe. It was with regarding AI. When are you going to believe what you're told? And you said when you could see it, when you're driving down the road and you could see it, or whatever. But there are things with global warming, and or I don't even know what you want to call it. Remember when it was called something else and then they were like we have to rebrand it? I can't remember what we used to say. um anyway, it'll come to me. It was definitely rebranded, because people were like, they're
Well,
not going to take this seriously.
here's the thing. Well, at first, in the early 70s, late 60s, they were worried about cooling, not warming. They were worried about all the smog and all the pollution blocking out the sun's rays,
Yes.
and it's sending us into another ice age. And major scientists came out and said we're heading into another ice age. There was probably as many saying we are going in as we're not going in. Same thing that's
Right.
going on now.
Right.
So obviously that didn't happen. So they changed it and said no, they're wrong. Now it's causing the greenhouse effect in which we're going to heat up, and we're heating up so bad that all the water and all the ice caps are melting, which I shared with you. That was in 1975. It probably happened sooner than that, but that's when I remember it because I was sitting in that class, and
Right.
that didn't happen. So they rebrand it and they rebrand it, and they've done it several times. One thing I do know, the whole climate change, climate catastrophe thing is a money making son of a gun for a lot of people.
Yeah,
They
no,
get
I
all
was
kinds.
gonna say, I know that people are profiting off of it for sure. And I know, and I'm talking, and I think that the general population, whether they think about this or not, I mean, think of all of the people that are supposed to be serving us in our Congress are getting paid back pocket by the lobbyists that they're on camera fighting to say, oh, we're going against this. Like the pipeline, for example, is probably one that I'm sure way more people in Congress made money off of that than what we probably know. Um, so
Who
I agree
knows?
with you
Yeah,
in
who
that
knows?
regard. I agree with you in that regard. What I'm wondering is, it feels like the frustration comes when we feel like we're being told something and then we find out later that it's not true. Obviously, that would be frustrating. What I wonder if the people that are warning us and cautioning us about the environment are seeing things that we're not privy to see, and are constantly having to remind people that we are called to be shepherds of this earth, whether you're Christian
Not
or not.
shepherds,
If I'm
not
sorry,
shepherds,
stewards. I
stewards.
understand.
But see, Matt, you're confusing two things, and let me
I
clarify it for
understand.
you.
I understand why
But
I'm
no, as
confusing
a
two things.
no, as a Christian, because you keep saying as a Christian we're stewards of the earth. As a Christian, a well-versed Christian also believes that man's going to do nothing that's going to destroy this earth. God's going to destroy this earth, and he's going to do it with fire. He said that himself. So if you're going to use the Christian aspect and come at the Christian slant, we already know there's nothing mankind's going to do to destroy this earth. God's going to do it. He said he
God
was
is
going to do it.
Did
His
God
word
say
said he was going to do it.
specifically that man didn't create the fire?
No, he
Did God
specifically
say
said,
specifically
"I
that the
will."
machine that man invented doesn't
No, he
create the
specifically
motivation?
said, "I will create a new heaven and a new earth,"
Right,
which
but he
implies
says a
the
lot
old
of
one.
things through metaphor, Dad. I mean,
Yeah,
we've already agreed that whatever flying thing could be Apache helicopters that look like that sound like mythical creatures when you read Revelation. So my
right.
point is, we don't know the way
We
that
don't
God
know,
works
but
through
I'm
us,
just
right?
now. You asked me a
So it could
question.
be man-made.
I'm telling you how Christians react to it. That's what I'm
Okay.
telling you. Whether you disagree with it or agree with it, I don't care.
But I
That
don't think I don't think I think you're speaking broadly about first of all,
I'm
unless you
speaking broadly about Christians I know and have this discussion with every week.
right. That's fair that in
So
your
whether it's
community.
right or wrong is not for me to decide or for
But
you to
you think that
decide.
all Christians believe that there's only one version of how the world's going to end? I
No,
disagree. There
no,
are
no,
so
they don't.
many
But none of them believe
sects
Al
of,
Gore, I'll tell you that.
well, I think that no Christian believes anyone on the left. If there's an L, if there's a D in front of their name,
Not always. No, not
mm,
always.
who then give me an example
I
that.
I believe I believe Bill Maher lots of times when he says stuff.
But
Lots
Bill
of
Maher's
times.
not a congressperson
No, but
and
he's a
doesn't have to
Democrat.
declare a political affiliation.
But he is a Democrat, and he says he's a Democrat.
No,
He's a true
in fact, on
Democrat.
his last episode, he said that he would throw his hat into the ring to the Republican candidate
Oh yeah,
if the
now
Democratic Party keeps going the way that it's going.
because he thinks his party left him. He didn't leave his party.
Well, I
So
think
yeah,
that's what everyone thinks, but
right.
I don't necessarily disagree with Bill Maher in that
Right.
regard. I think that,
Exactly.
but I think that the same thing is happening on the right. To be quite honest, I think that, and we talk about it all the time on this podcast. I think that the extremes are getting all of the attention, and
Could be.
I think that we are, you know, okay.
I,
So okay,
I guess the way to sum it up from a Christian perspective is
hmm
I I'm not worried about the earth. God's going to take care of it. That's how I feel about it. I'm not worried about it. Do I want to not be a good steward? No. I'm called to be a good steward, and I'm not going to blatantly go out of my way to do something to harm it. But but it's not high on my priority list. I'm not worried about it. There's so many other things to worry about.
well, what would be before the environment and the earth for you?
Well, I mean, everything that we've read in the last 2 years, the stuff that's happened to Israel, how's that's going to look?
Well,
What's
I
going to
mean,
happen?
war is ongoing on Earth, and in your generation and in my generation, we have not been without a war, but we have had an atmosphere, and we have had an ozone layer, and we have had these things that if one day you woke up and it was gone, you don't think the Earth would then suddenly get a precedent or a priority
I
in
don't
the
think it's going to happen
ranking?
that way. I think the end's going to come like God says it's going to come. And being none of that's happened yet, the earth must be here. If there's an Armageddon, they fight it on earth.
Yeah, but it's kind of that same conversation of like, okay, you believe that you're appointed a death day. Like God knows when you're going to die, the day that you're going to die. It's already preset, it's predestined. That
It's
doesn't
not
mean that,
predestined.
or it's predetermined. It's
It's because he's an all know. You can't have an all knowing, all seeing God and him not know on the day that I'm going to
okay.
die.
So the day that you're going to die, he knows. And you and I argue though that it's your quality of life as long as you're here. So it's the same thing I
That's
would
right. Yeah,
argue in this
this
regard.
this temple right here,
Your body.
I'm supposed to be a steward of it also.
Right.
So why would I do things to blatantly hurt it? I
Right.
have,
So
but I mean, you know,
right. So why wouldn't you apply that same thing to the earth?
I do. That's why I
Okay.
blatantly don't say you go out and pollute. I don't like the fact that they pollute the ocean the way they do. I don't like the fact that they pollute streams the way they do. I don't think that they should, you know, we stopped burning trash. When I was growing up, we burnt trash. Everybody had an ash pit in their backyard. We didn't take it to a landfill. We burned it right in our backyard, you know, and it was
Yeah.
pretty bad when your mom's hanging out clothes on this clothesline and your neighbor's burning trash,
Yeah.
you know. So I think there's changes made that I agree with, but what I'm saying is it's not I don't think it, and in a Christian's eyes, it's not the crisis that uh, it's been made out to be. How do I know that? Because every one of them, from Al Gore to my professor in environmental conservation to many professors and many people that came out, have predicted so many things that are going to happen, and none of them have happened.
Kind
That's
of
all I'm
like
saying.
all of those people that say the end is coming, the end is coming, and we know the end is coming, but no one knows the date.
When no one knows the date.
Exactly.
No one
Exactly.
knows. And if they're saying dates, then they're wrong.
Okay. Okay. We have
Did we exhaust that?
yeah, not only have we exhausted that, we would not pass our smog test because it wasn't very interesting. Uh it was
Well, I don't know how you want me to make it more interesting because
I no,
I'm
I
just
don't want you
telling
to
you.
make anything. I feel sorry for our listening audience in that uh, because I imagine that well, I don't know where people sit with this. I know that in our household we go out of our way to try to separate our recycling and to be practical about you know consumption and things that we do, but then I also know that we leave 10 lights on and that's not good sometimes, so I'm guilty of
I
not.
believe in recycling. I think all that plastic. Why not reuse it? All you got to do is melt it and make it into something else. I
I
I,
just
I
think I just think that I think this is what frustrates me about the environment conversation. I find it frustrating that the people that and Bill Maher talks about this, the people that fly private jets and the people that drive the fancy cars and the people every one of those Congress people and the senators, they all have their carbon footprint is so huge and they're
compared to ours.
preaching to middle America to be better, try harder, work. You're causing this, you're doing this, you're doing, and it's like no, but they are the biggest
Right.
hypocrites. So
Worse
I
than
think
that.
why I get frustrated with the environmental conversation is because I think that we should all be doing better. We should all do our part to contribute to making not only this planet but our society and our culture and our the way we connect with one another. We should constantly be evolving how we look at that and how we approach it and make it better. At the same time, I also feel like we should be calling out the hypocrisy in our leadership. And it's hard to do both at the same time. When
Right. But hypocrisy, like you said, runs both ways. And do you watch Landman? Have you watched Landman?
I don't know what that is.
Billy Bob Thornton. Yeah. Well,
There's so many television shows and
right. I know.
yeah.
Well, but I don't watch it per se, except it comes on reels on my social media all the time. And so I've probably watched so many reels of it that I've watched, many episodes. But he talks about the hypocrisy. They're an oil man and they're drilling in Texas.
Well, a writer wrote that for Billy Bob Thornton. So whoever the writer is that
That
wrote
is
that.
that, and the writer hit it dead on. And not only did he hit it dead on, but we have a huge windmill wind generator plant in Pueblo, Colorado, and we
Okay.
worked on it. My company worked on that plant, and
Okay.
we and so when you look, eh, those machines that they're putting up,
Mhm.
and that part's true. They pour so much concrete. It's 12 foot by 12 foot thick by a half an acre of. I mean, it's huge concrete pads to hold those things up.
Mhm.
Just the diesel and the trucks that do that, that pour all that concrete, and they then on top of it, those huge columns that they're on are all electric welded. It's in that plant you can see them. They roll them and weld them, roll them and weld them. Those machines have a 25-year lifespan. Their carbon they don't ever make up their own carbon footprint. They have a bigger carbon footprint to make them than what the electricity that they put out.
So
And
this
that
is going back to what we said earlier about people getting rich off of
it's
the
money.
environmental.
It's
Right,
money.
right,
It's all about money.
right.
It's all about
And
money.
I think, and again, and so then
Unfortunately.
turning it to the people that are really the activists, that whether it be the Keystone Pipeline, or uh you know going to all electric cars, which I find also just so,
Ridiculous.
well, I mean, there
You
are
can't do it.
children getting hands blown off in mines trying to mine the
Cobalt.
and yeah, and
Cobalt. Yeah.
right. So the hypocrisy. And but where I was going with this is, I wonder if the people that are like, oil, I'm so mad, oil. Okay, but so wind power, requires what? It requires,
You know how much oil it takes to make that
right,
wind power?
right. So I know. So I don't know how you answer this. So okay, now we're officially done with the environmental conversation.
Okay.
What
We
is
didn't solve anything, by the way, but
nothing? And yeah,
which no
and
one does. That was the point of your whole thing. No one really does. It is what
well,
it
it's
is.
a scare tactic like any other scare tactic. And again, this one in particular works so that no one calls it out better than Bill Maher. He did a whole segment where he had clip after clip after clip of Bernie Sanders, any environmentalist, Leonardo DiCaprio, just one after another getting on a private jet. And it's like, well, that right there, that carbon footprint right there, that the choice to use a small private jet when you could fly a commercial plane going the same place, it is what it is.
See my
Okay.
carbon footprint?
Oh
See my
no.
carbon footprint right
To
there?
the listening audience, my dad is flashing his Harley Davidson.
Yeah.
That's his
So I got
carbon footprint.
I ride this more than anything. I've got a very small carbon footprint.
Okay, I thought okay.
48 miles to the gallon. 48 miles to the gallon.
It's not electric.
Not electric. 100% premium gasoline.
What? Oh, I'm afraid to ask what another thing that we were told that didn't come true. Tell me another one. It's really just the environment for me. I really
Well,
think.
for me, it was the environment. It really was. I mean, there were so many, and being the major I had, geology major, there was very few professors, geology professors, that didn't aspire to complete evolution, to all that kind of stuff, about evolution, and how the Earth was formed, and how old the Earth is. And I mean, that was one thing. We were told that the Earth was 4.5 billion years old, and now there's scientists coming out saying no, it's actually, and they have great evidence, and I'm not going to speak to the fact they say no, it's probably about 8,000 years old. So and that goes back to
8,000 years old. That
my
who's saying
belief,
that?
huh? Lots of
Who's
people,
saying that?
lots of Genesis only uh, scientists are saying that.
What I'm not familiar with a Genesis only scientist. What
Well,
is that?
if they take Genesis,
The
the
book of
book of
Genesis from the
Genesis,
Bible.
that, and literally use that and all the stuff they've found now, that's coming up with the strata layers and how it was laid down, and how really a catastrophic flood could have laid down what people thought were hundreds and thousands of feet of layers could have happened in one instant with a catastrophic flood, and they go through it. Yeah, I mean, there's a
Okay, but
great.
that's asking. Okay,
Well, I'm just
that's a
telling.
whole.
I'm just
Uh,
telling you that
I
there's things that were taught to me that I do not believe anymore because of stuff I've heard is Genesis history. Just go on YouTube and ask if Genesis is history, and it'll come up, and you can watch those things and believe them or not believe them. I mean, that's again, that'll be another.
I
That'll be
just I would I mean, what is it? What do they? How do they explain dinosaur bones and things like that? What do they
go on and
explain?
watch it. They do.
No, I don't want. I won't. I will not be watching this. So I'm
Well,
wondering if you
that's
could just
very
not tell it.
closed-minded of you,
It's
myself.
not closed-minded of me. I have too many other things that interest me. Not than I
Okay,
don't want to hear. First of all, you can't prove anything about how long or how old the Earth is. Whether they think it's 15 billion years old or
four
8,000
point five.
years old,
Four
whatever.
point
It
five.
doesn't matter. The numbers can be outlandish because to me, I tried to read Neil deGrasse Tyson. I love Neil deGrasse Tyson. I think he's so interesting, and I think he makes the cosmos accessible to someone like me. But then at the end of the day, every time I start to read one of his books, I'm like, but this is more than I want to think about. I don't want
Right,
to think about why and how and all of those things. I don't, right. I'm just doing my best to stay present and get through it. so,
right.
I don't know. But I'm also, I don't, I guess the thing about science that confuses me is that everything is a theory. And in the same way that I would approach my art making, there's always a question that needs to be answered for me, right? I'm trying to solve a question. In my art making, I get to solve it as close as possible. In science, theories that we thought were proved have been disproved. So, I
Yeah,
mean,
of course. And that, I mean, there's hard science.
what's hard science?
Water boils at 212 degrees Fahrenheit at sea level.
Unless
Okay,
you're
that
in the mountains.
no, at sea level, I said. That's a
Oh,
hard
okay.
science. Okay. That's
Yeah.
all there's hard science. There's things you can observe in a chemistry lab that you do, and that's hard science. But you're right. There's a huge portion of it that's not hard science. Now, a lot of scientists would argue with you, but I think it's just so interesting that now there's so many scientists on the Genesis history theory that are coming out saying this is this and this is that. And I just think God made it that way that we would not really know, which is where a lot of
Why do
faith
you think
comes
it's
from.
interesting that there are so many of these people coming out?
Well, no, I think it's interesting that there's so many now for it and now against it that, there's no clear cut answer that, like you said, that one can say this is this without having, like myself, a need for faith to believe that what God said is true. And I just believe it. But
But the Big Bang Theory, in my mind, could be still looked through the lens of faith and the way that God describes the beginning.
yeah, if God said bang, yeah, then yeah.
But you're thinking it from the human standpoint instead of the metaphor that there are everything especially in the Old Testament. There's so much metaphor and there's so much uh there's room for it's poetry. So
Yeah, but not all of it's poetry. No, there's historical books, there's poetic
well,
books.
yeah, the
No.
names, the list of names of, documented name of a family line, that's, factual. But there are other parts of the Bible in the New Testament as well, in Revelation, that could easily be many different versions of something playing out in a Hollywood film. If you got three different film directors to direct Revelation, they could all see it a completely different way. One could be super realistic, one could be super abstract, and one could be like kind of what it sounds like when you read the book.
Yeah, but
So
there's only one true way. You're
and
right.
none of us know it.
A-
No one knows it.
And that was
So
my point.
why is everyone so obsessed with trying to be the one that, well, it had to
Uh,
happen this way.
I'm not obsessed with it. I think that by faith you develop what you believe needs to be believed, and your faith carries you through that. And let other people have their faith to carry them through what they believe. But
I agree with that.
there is a true answer, and there is a true question, and there's a true answer. You know, and and
That
and
will
don't get
only be answered when you're not here any longer.
No, I think the main things are the plain things, the plain things are the main things. I don't get caught up in the minutia. I don't. It doesn't matter. It's the same thing with global warming or anything that science says. The main things are the plain things, and the plain things are the main things, and that's in scripture also.
Climate crisis. It's not global warming. We've been saying it wrong. That's
Now
the
it's
point.
climate crisis. It was global warming.
Yeah.
First
So
it
this
was global
whole
cooling.
episode, I've been calling it the wrong thing. We are supposed to say climate crisis.
No, we're supposed to say whatever we think we want to say and not go by what someone else wants you to say.
I have a big smile. Dad. I'm
Okay.
joking. I know I got it wrong. Sorry to my friends that if my friends, I have several friends that are very passionate about this, and I don't want them to think that I don't care. I'm equally passionate about the environment. I don't like stunting. I think that I don't want to even say her name, but there's a person that you and I both agree uses environmentalism as more of a stunt to
Yeah, of course.
speak on a generation, and those kinds of things don't work for me. In the
No.
same way I don't like when, you know yeah, when Congress people take money from the people that they're supposed to be fighting against. Those kinds of things are just so hypocritical, and I can't get past it.
Well, I think that someone discovered a long time ago, and I don't know when, that the climate debacle, whether it's however you want it, is a money making proposition, and they're really good at it. Really, really good at it.
Well, that's and what's wrong with that? We live in a capitalist country. Shouldn't that be
No, you can do what you want. I don't have to
right?
agree with it.
Right. It's when the restriction is imposed and not followed by the same people. Kind of like everyone in power right now, where it's kind of just they've run amok. Our elected officials in Congress, in the White House.
What if and this is just a what if, it's a huge what if, okay?
Mhm.
I mean, it's about money, but what if it's about control more than it's about money? What if they start tracking your carbon footprint, which they've already talked about, and they say, Matthew, you're not driving to Long Beach today. You're past your carbon footprint for this week. You've
Why
gone
would that
over it,
happen?
huh?
Who
I don't know.
why
I'm
would
just
it
saying,
happen? And
what if it was about that? What if it was about ultimate control? What if it was a control they were working towards? I don't know if it is or not. I'm just presenting this to you. I'm asking you this question. What if it was about that? Is that unheard? Is that impossible for it to be that way? I don't think. I don't know if it will. I don't know how it
I
would
don't I
happen.
would I if you're asking the question for me to answer it honestly, I would ask what would their gain be in doing that?
Control.
Control for what? Control to control how much money I can make, control how far I can go, control where I'm what part of control? What would they be controlling
I
and
don't
why?
know. Ask the communist bloc countries before the Iron Curtain fell. Why were those people under control? Why were they under control of how much money they could make? Why were they under control of what food they could eat if they had any food to eat?
So wait, but you just took us to a communist country, but we live in a democracy.
I know, but could what if it's part of us heading towards that controlling factor? I don't know.
How
I'm
would it
presenting it
how
to
would
you.
it roll out? Pitch me the rollout. I don't see it, Dad.
Well, I think it,
The
I
same way
think it
that
would be very hard for them to roll it out in this country
right, that's my point. It's
because
like
of the
it's my friends on the
because
left, the
of the
far
Second Amendment.
far no, it's not because of that. It's the same thing that I say
And
tell my
First
wait,
and
let me
Second Amendment.
no, it's because we have checks and balances in place to stop people from doing things like that.
Yeah, the
Eh,
First and Second Amendment. I can get on here and talk about it. You can talk about it, and if God forbid I ever have to act on it, I can act on it.
but we don't just overnight become
Well, I
a
didn't say it'd be
communist country.
overnight. I didn't say it'd be overnight. I
Right.
said,
So
what if it's in a progression of control?
the
All
and
I'm
so
is
that's
asking
but
you.
you haven't answered my question. How would it roll out? What would it look like?
I don't
What
know.
how would
I'm
they even
asking you, what if it was that? You didn't answer my question. What if it was about control and not about money? Answer my question.
then it's about control and not money. What it doesn't change that's
Do you
why I
think
don't
that
understand
do
what
you think that's possible?
Anything's
Wh-
possible.
What I okay, all right, that's all I wanted to hear. What I'm
But
proposing,
that you asked a question that had no endpoint. That's what I'm
it does
confused
have
by.
an endpoint. Control's control. I mean,
Okay, but we're all being controlled, Dad.
to a
That's
certain
to me
extent,
that's such a
yes.
silly question. I mean,
It's not a
we're
silly
controlled.
question. What if we're headed towards that type of communism?
But you haven't given me any of the foundation that leads to that. That would the question came out of left field, and then you said answer this out of left field is what you
No, I
just did.
didn't. I said
Where is it coming?
we're talking.
You're not sharing more to the story. You're holding something back, as
All I
mentioned.
can give you is what I know, and I'm
And what
just
do you
saying.
know?
You asked me why would people be the way they are about carbon footprint, or what to what purpose does it serve? And the only reason I said it's either got to be about money, they want to
Okay,
make money on it, which they do, okay, or it's
right.
about control. What do you think? Could it be about control? I'm not
Okay.
advocating
And I said it
anything.
could be about control, but
Okay.
if it were about control, what would it look like?
I don't know. I'm not smart enough to tell you that.
Right. So
I
my
just don't.
point is this: if it were only about control, wouldn't that have started 20 years ago? Wouldn't that have started,
It
when
may
Al
have.
Gore was running?
It may have
Show me,
started.
like, but where do I feel controlled by what the EPA is doing? I don't
Well,
feel. I feel like a lack of control. I feel like they're opening up places and parts of this country that were supposed to be locked down and secure, like parts of this country that were only supposed to see foot traffic and eyeballs, that are now going to see drills and hotels.
and they
So,
also closed down. They also closed down every coal-fired power plant in Colorado. They controlled that industry. There is no longer that industry anymore.
but
It's gone
the coal industry in Colorado, or just in general, the
in
coal's there.
Colorado.
Okay,
That
I was going to
industry
say
is
'cause there's
gone.
coal in New Mexico right now. I know that.
Yeah, there's coal, but there's no coal-fired power plants.
Coal
Wyoming has.
fired. Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha. But
So
you're not
so
talking
that's
about
part.
fracking. You're not talking about.
No, I'm talking about
Okay.
coal-fired power plants. Craig, Colorado had a coal-fired power plant. They closed
Did
it
they
down.
close the factory?
Yeah, it's closed
And what was the reasoning?
because coal produces a carbon footprint,
So what
and
do they do about the railroad industry?
got me.
That doesn't make any sense to me.
Warren Buffett owns most of the railroad industry, so they probably did nothing. Same thing with the pipeline. Do you think that oil that was in the pipeline is still not getting here?
No, we that was opened up.
Yeah, well, it was, but when it was closed, instead of that oil going through the pipeline, it was going on to railroad cars
Trains,
and
yeah,
trucks and coming,
right.
and
Probably
probably
polluting.
using more carbon footprint to do
Right,
that.
but
But
okay,
someone was making a lot of money doing that,
no,
namely Warren Buffett.
not only that, the money, you have to, first of all, Dad, you have to keep your face directed over the mic, because
Okay,
you're talking, and it's,
sorry.
especially when you get passionate, half of it
I'm
gets
not
thrown
a
away.
broadcaster, Matt.
No, but people are listening, so you have to make sure they can hear you. Part two of that is, okay, but the pipeline was more than just the environmental damage that it was doing. It was that it was going through sacred lands, and the government just assumed their position in going through those lands rather than asking permission, or rather than relocating the pipeline. They just used, what is it, eminent domain, and they just took over people's land. So I'm thinking, okay, grandma's house, your mom's house, that grandma and grandpa's home. I'm thinking, if the government said we're taking over this land, we want to take over this, I'd be really hurt and upset, right? So
Yeah, but
I,
if they gave me fair market value, I would not cry at all. I should
you
be so lucky.
wouldn't,
I should be so lucky as to get
right?
paid
Because
for it.
you're in the stage of your life that you're like, show me the money. I'm in the stage of my life where I'm like, I want that memory of my grandmother and grandfather.
Right.
You know,
I know where you're coming from, but we're sliding off. And all I'm telling you is there's only two reasons that anything like that would take place, and it's either got to be about money or control, or both. And I don't know exactly what that looks like, and I don't think you know what it looks like. But could it happen? Yeah, that could be the reason. Definitely money.
I
Definitely.
know that money's involved, and that has been confirmed.
So we agree. We agree on that.
Yeah, I have this whole episode. The question that remains is why, or really how they would use the environment to control. I guess I thought you were going with like the tiny towns or whatever and all of that, and like you're gonna have to stay in your little village and you can't like wander out of your. I thought that's where you were going with that.
China's done that already. China's done that to some extent, but I don't know to what extent. I don't think that wouldn't go over very good here.
Okay, so
And I don't
we're
know that
near-
I even believe that they could do that here, but anything's possible. Like you said, anything's possible.
anything's possible, but things that aren't probable on the right or the left, to any extreme person listening on the right or the left, if it doesn't sound probable, just don't bring it up, because it's a scare tactic, in my opinion. That's just my you're welcome for my request. It's me requesting common sense. Let's just use common sense when it comes to things. The environment, I think, is one of those things that people are very passionate about, and obviously we all want. Well, maybe not everyone, but I know that you and I want this place to be well preserved for Kellen and all of the people that we leave behind when we leave. We have about 5 minutes left. This episode has really been
Hodgepodge magage.
a real environmental disaster of itself.
Just so you know, actually this year, the Antarctic ice is thicker than it's ever been in history. That we've tracked it.
Is that for sure? You've vetted that? Or did you see that on?
You can read it in a lot of places now. Did I go down and measure the ice myself? No.
Okay.
And there's probably some scientists saying, no, that's not true. And there's other scientists saying, yes, that is true. So, I mean, here you go.
Okay.
I'm in Florence, Colorado, and it's a long ways from Antarctica.
Okay. Last question.
I meant Antarctica, not Arctic. I'm sorry.
Okay. Last question. Do you think that faith asks us to stop questioning and stop asking questions, or do you think that it reveals better ones?
Well, faith is a very good thing, so it would only reveal better. That's all it would do. I don't think that.
Okay, but
true
you answered
faith
it so quickly. I wonder sometimes, your faith is so strong. Do you think that you don't think through something because of your faith?
I always think through stuff, but I don't overthink it.
Okay, that's fair.
If that's a fair statement.
Yeah, I would take that.
I think through everything.
But you don't think that, because well, and it's interesting because you brought up the people that I'd never heard of before, which are the Genesis scientists, which that it's interesting.
It is Genesis history.
Their faith, I would, I guess, argue, is calling them to prove that the world and the way that we came into existence was more biblical. And so I feel like there's an agenda there. So I guess that would be my
just like the evolutionists, there's an agenda to prove.
What is the agenda for the evolutionists?
To prove that evolution is true.
But what is the agenda
in that? To creationism.
But there's no book that said that.
Well, there is too.
Dad, there's no book about the evolution of man that talks about social construct and then culture and then society and then puts a religion on it. There isn't.
No, but Darwin wrote the theory of evolution.
Okay, but Darwin and the theory of evolution can exist or not exist, and regular people on this earth aren't affected by it. But if we say, okay, but if we can prove that, because so there's an agenda with the Genesis scientists that concerns me, that says, if we prove this, then there is a God, and then you all have to believe in our Christian God.
And so that's where and the atheist scientists that believe in evolution say, if we prove this, then we prove that there isn't a God, and you guys are all talking nonsense, and you might as well just live your life like it is. So you're arguing my point, and I don't even have to argue it, because you just totally think with the same thing for the atheist scientists.
Well, no, but the difference is the agnostic side doesn't have a set of moral codes that they put on society.
Sure they do. Sure they do. Okay, there's no God, so live it the way you want to live.
Okay, but that's not in a free.
That's an immoral code, by the way.
But dad, it's a free country, and if you care about the First and Second Amendment, then you must care about the country, and whether you believe it or not, people don't have to believe what you believe. We agree on that.
Right.
So
Of
so
course.
just listen to before you're so certain, just listen. The difference between a Genesis scientist, and I'm just speaking purely on what you've told me, and someone who's arguing Darwinism or the theory of evolution or the Big Bang, is that they're not asking the entire people to believe everything and then follow a set of moral guides because of it. They're saying, this is what we believe, exist how you want. And the opposite is not true in your case. And we'll just you'll have to have a quick rebuttal, like less than 10 seconds. Go.
I think you're wrong. I think that
Okay, that's perfect. Just leave it there.
Yeah,
This has been a great conversation. We'll go deeper next time. I love you, Dad.
I think you're wrong.
I love you, Dad.
I love you too.
Thank you all for listening. Until next episode, thank you so much. We will see you next time on Discussions with Dad. Have a good one.